Hi, I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Ka. And I'm Dom.
And this is our project.
Can you say your name, age, where you're from, and college affiliation?
My name is Sandy Lamb. I'm 20 years old. I'm a College 9 affiliate, and I'm from Concord, California.
My name is Raymond Lee, and I am affiliated with College 10. I'm 21. I'm from Alameda, California.
Hello, my name is Khan, and I'm 19 years old, and I'm affiliated with Cal College. And also, I identify as a Vietnamese American.
Clara Tanvisa. I'm 21. My college affiliation is Kresge, and I'm from Southern California, Orange County area.
Okay, my name is Isabel. I am 19 years old. I'm from Orinda, California, and I'm from Cal.
My name is Chris. I'm 21 years old. I'm a C10 affiliate, and I'm Indian from Asia.
My name is Megan. I'm 20. I'm from College 9, and I'm Vietnamese.
Hi, I'm Monte Villarreal. I'm from Sacramento, California. I'm a College 10 affiliate, and I am Mexican.
My name is Kyle. I am 20. I'm affiliated with College 10, and I'm from San Jose.
Hi, my name is Chris Griffiths. I'm 20 years old. I am Japanese American.
I'm David Pierce. I am 21 years old. I am from Oahu, Hawaii, and I identify as half Japanese, half American.
Have you heard of Japanese internment camps?
Yes,
Do you know what they are?
a little bit.
They were for groups, certain ethnicities of people, and they're mostly used as like for mistreatment and things like that.
Internment camps are used to exclude people based on some unethical view that the majority of the people have.
I define it as the mass interning, or basically legal imprisonment of a large group of people, typically of the same ethnicity or any other cultural group.
Do you know how many internment camps there were across California?
Across California? No, I don't know any.
Do you know how many across the nation?
Nation? I know there was one in Hawaii, but that's all I'm aware of.
Not really, yeah.
Okay.
More than 10.
In America, I would say like in the high, like, hundreds almost. I'd say like around 80, 90, 100-ish, around there.
Do you know what happened to the Japanese American communities after they left the internment camps?
After the internment camps, I think like they were just kind of like released. Like they went back to like most of them being. I know this because most of them didn't even return back to their homes because they were like taken away by the U.S. government, and like they lost basically everything they've worked hard for. And like they came out basically with nothing except like family and this thought of the U.S. being like discriminating towards them.
A little bit. Not exactly though.
Okay.
They had nowhere to return to.
How much do you know about what happened to Japanese Americans at the time?
I know that I don't remember why exactly. I think during World War II, because Japan was one of the enemies, they did it as like a way to protect the nation from like possible, invasion from the inside. And then they put them in internment camps, and they had horrible conditions, and they're against their will. So it wasn't a good time.
No, I don't know much about it, but presumably they were treated poorly.
I think they just faced like a lot of hatred and like racism. Yeah.
Well, I know that Pearl Harbor was bombed, so
Okay.
I believe that it was also a sense of betrayal, and like they probably didn't know what side to like be, because they probably sided with like their Japanese side, but they were also American, so it was probably really hard to determine who they truly were.
Do you agree with the actions and measures taken upon the Japanese Americans during World War II?
No, I don't, because Fred T. Korematsu versus the U.S. obviously was the really big court case where it was deemed that Japanese were held against their will for no justifiable reason, and that was, the whole, case for why internment camps were basically not, right.
No, I don't think that's ever justified.
I don't think so. I say that no matter what, they'll find a reason to justify it, so you can't really declare it justifiable or not.
Did you learn about internment camps at school?
Very, very briefly. It was like maybe one day, and it was glossed over pretty quickly.
Definitely not.
Maybe like a little bit, but nothing that I can recall.
Nope.
No? Okay.
No.
Not so much about internment camps and versus like what they did here. There was more focus on like the Germans and what they did and the other countries, but not so much about America. I guess like looking them at like a bad light.
I never learned about it like in my public school education. I just knew that like internment camps existed, but I didn't no one ever told me like what it actually happened, or even like painting the U.S. in a negative light. Really, I had to like learn this from a class that was I took by choice. That wasn't a part of my major, so I kind of had to directly try to learn about this stuff on my own.
I went to my elementary school was actually Fred T. Korematsu Elementary School, so we basically learned everything about internment camps and Japanese American during the time before that World War, and basically we had a lot of educational in the library, the librarians would teach us about the Japanese Americans, and more specifically what Fred T. Korematsu did. It was a big kind of focus on my elementary school because that was our our school's name, and we had to understand the cultural significance behind it.
Do you think it was discussed enough?
Other than my elementary school, I never really talked about it. So I feel like, American education should have a more emphasis on it. But I learned a lot through my elementary school, and I think that really kind of, helped solidify that understanding of what happened and how significant it was to the country.
I feel I learned more about it because I am Japanese, so I learned I've watched documentaries through with my family, and I've also went to Japanese school where I learned about it as well. But I feel I don't know, and I mostly was in high school. I think it was the main part of the focus. There's a lot of topics to cover, so I don't think they spent too much time on it, other than that it was tough, and it was a messed up thing that the U.S. government did. But I don't know, I'm not sure if I blame the schools for not covering it enough, because there is indeed a lot of stuff that happens in history, but I feel like it's a good thing for people to know what happened, especially since it was pretty recent in Americans' history.
Okay, so our whole project was kind of geared towards being a sort of expose as to how much or how little people actually knew about the Japanese internment camps, mostly on campus because that was a majority of our demographic, but more of a testament to how our education system as a whole doesn't actually talk about such an important part of U.S. history. Arguably one of the government's biggest mistakes in terms of dealing with different groups and types of citizens. But yeah, so that's what all of this was for.
And our main goal was to gather people in the very end to reteach these memories through our uses of primary sources and secondary sources.
So here we have information, mostly from people that we've interviewed, including some other people, but it's more to show the demographic of the people that we asked, to see how their age, their college affiliation, ethnicity, where they're from originally, might have influenced how they saw Japanese internment camps.
So in our survey, we had 46 responses.
First, we asked people about their age, and the age range was from 18-year-old to 23. We had 39% 20-year-olds, 28% 19-year-olds, and 15% 21, 10% 18-year-olds, and the rest were 23 and 22. And we also asked for what colleges they were affiliated with. 67% of them were from College 9 and 10, which was the majority of the people, and 10% were from Cowell. But we also had several people from Rachel Carson, Crown, Merrill, Stevenson, Porter, Kresge, and Oaks. And lastly, we asked about ethnicities, and we had 39% Chinese people, 37% Vietnamese, 15% Filipino, and the rest were either Japanese, Korean, white, Latino, African, Iranian, or other Asian.
In addition to these basic demographic questions, we also asked a bunch of surface level questions about internment camps. The first one was, do you know what internment camps are? And most people answered that they only knew about it on a surface level, while very few people knew a lot about it, and a couple people knew actually nothing about it. Our next question is, do you agree with the use of internment camps as a precautionary measure? And most people believe that the U.S. should have done something else, and a large portion of them believe that the U.S. could have employed alternative, less extreme measures, while some people believe that the U.S. needed to ensure American citizen safety before all others, in which case they agreed with the use of internment camps. This is a follow-up question to the previous question where it asked the people what methods they thought should have been employed instead. And most people talked about how they should have been less strict, both within and outside of internment camps, and how the U.S. should have just completely left the citizens out of the conflict between them and Japan. They also mentioned how background checks should have been more extensive and how it was unethical to just automatically throw all Japanese Americans in these internment camps. The next question was just to see if anybody had any relatives or immediate family members that have experienced these camps, and most people, unsurprisingly, said no. And this was the most essential question in our survey, and it asked what these people have learned about camps during their elementary, middle, and high school, college schooling. And almost half of them said they learned barely anything about it, while very few people knew extensively, and a couple of people actually knew nothing about it, which was also unsurprising. And this showcases the fact that internment camps must be more thoroughly talked about in school, as it was a very important era in U.S. history, and how we could improve upon our mistakes by being more educated about it.
So as you can see from our data and the interviews that we gathered, most people actually didn't know much about Japanese American history or the internment camps, besides the fact that they existed. The few people that did know about it either took classes at the college specifically about Asian American history. One grew up in Hawaii, where they had a big Japanese community, so they emphasized that history, and another person went to a Japanese school. So because of those two foundations, they obviously geared their education to learning about that. But for the most part, most of the people that we interviewed didn't really know about it. And to combat that, we actually held a discussion section where we gave sources to answer the questions that we asked them.
Okay, so many people thought there weren't any specific Japanese American divisions in the military during World War II, but many Japanese Americans felt that it was their patriotic duty to support the war, support the United States. And this is Mo Yanamura. He was a soldier in the Japanese American division.
So one of the questions we asked people is if they know where the internment camps were. Most people said that they were all in California, which is a misconception, because obviously you can see from here that they're actually pretty scattered from mid-US all the way to the west. Most of them were in California, but they weren't
in California exclusively. So this article is called Japanese and Fruit, and it basically talks about how Japanese people are needed for labor in order to harvest fruit crops. And then it goes on to say that it'd be better to get rid of crops than to have Japanese people in the country. And this is just one of the examples that the US has. So we use primary sources, and from a patriotic perspective, we use the article Our Cards on the Table. And basically what we got from that was a lot of regulations for these Japanese Americans, which gave us like a perspective of how like strict these camps were. And then another one was Japanese and Fruit, which is an article that highlighted a lot of racism against the Japanese people. From the resistor perspective, we got Jean, who wrote the book Farewell to Manzanar. And basically she highlighted her life during the internment camps and afterwards, where she had to see her dad suffer, and he was being locked up because he was supposedly delivering oil to Japanese submarines offshore. And then I think from listening to her perspective and reading about it, kind of gave us like more of like a detailed description of what these camps were like. And then another one was One for All for One, which is also another article. This one was written by the Fair Play Committee, which they basically talked about how their constitutional rights and how they should be restored before they were being drafted. And then lastly, we have The Good War, the book The Good War. And it's about Yuriko Hori, like a specific person he interviewed about their lawsuit against the US because they like are demanding compensation. And then also there's a Densho website, and there's like 30 plus pages of just narrators and people who have endured the internment camps.
In addition to these primary sources, we also utilized a bunch of secondary sources, and a couple in particular were especially impactful to our project. And one of them was an article called "What Did the Internment of Japanese Americans Mean?" And it was mostly a statistical data-based article where it presented hard data and facts about how these internment camps affected Japanese Americans. And one of the facts that really stood out was how over 2/3 of the Japanese Americans that were confined in the camps across the U.S. were actually U.S. citizens. And we also utilized 2 podcasts by Scapegoat Cities and how these were extremely patriotic. One of them was called Irresistible Mo Yanamura. And the other secondary podcast by the Scapegoat Cities was Nisei no Way. This was from the resistor perspective of the Japanese Americans in internment camps.